Hello, everybody. Sorry, better late than never. Hey, welcome to the Moohead Radio Show. It's a big weekend coming up, so we have to get on the air and talk about this. Had my doggy Topaz over at the vet. Sorry, the vet kept me waiting 45 minutes before I saw the doctor, and so we're a
So it was
little
like
bit
going to
late.
a real doctor.
Yeah, exactly. And uh, Tony was in here and saying that I was freezing up. If there's any problems with my video, please let me know. Other than that, he'll be back if he can figure out his configuration. And we've got Brian with us. And if you're interested in joining the panel, all you have to do is look in the show description. It is right there. Obviously, today is we're on the on the fringe of we already have started the NFL season. Tampa Bay defeated Dallas in a very entertaining football game, and now it's our time to talk about prognostications for the Browns game, and we'll get to that later in the program. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be looking at the picks that are, there's two ways of going about this, I guess. I'm trying to think of how I'm sorry, I'm running in off the street and I'm not as prepared as what I would normally be. What I will tell you is this. Things change rapidly in the world of football. And people who watch this program on a regular basis will know that I had a premonition that the Ravens were going to be facing adversity and that Lamar Jackson would have to, at some point in his career, face the question as to whether he can lead the team with his arm as opposed to the conservative game calling and the running game and his own running game that's being called by Harbaugh. And now I never for a moment thought that this was going to happen to them. I mean, to have on back-to-back plays in a practice for the running back you were counting on to replace the guy who had already torn an ACL, Gus the Bus Edwards, he's now got the torn ACL as well, and Peters, their all-pro cornerback, gone for the season with the same injury.
They actually have 3 running backs that are out for the season now.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes on and on for them. And
so they just signed Le'Veon Bell.
That's right.
It's going to be whatever he's got left in the tank and Lamar Jackson.
No,
and on the defense,
my understanding is that they brought in another guy as well, and Murray, Latavius Murray, 31-year-old running back.
The one they cut, they got cut from the Saints.
And Murray is more of a between the tackles runner and fits the mold a little bit more of what the Ravens want to do.
He's more like Gus Edwards.
Yeah, exactly. And Gus Edwards has been a headache to Browns fans. Again, my feeling is that I want to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from. I do not wish this on anybody. I just know that every football player who's ever played the game, especially quarterbacks, have to face moments of adversity. Baker Mayfield had to deal with Hugh Jackson, which God only knows nobody has been able to do, and nobody was allowed to ever since he ruined the Cleveland organization, along with Haslam. And then he had to try to overcome Freddie Kitchens, who had no accountability or ability at all as far as putting together an offensive scheme. And then he had to go after it with Kevin Stefanski's new scheme. And the adversity is, the people who, because he was a number 1 overall pick, it's the Ryan Leaf kind of thing. It's like when you're a quarterback selected that high, you're expected to produce right off the bat, just like Trevor Lawrence will be expected to do certain things. And it's not a real fair expectation when these high, quarterbacks in college are going to losing professional football teams. I will say this. Baker Mayfield took a lot of shit from the national press. A lot of shit. And I thought a lot of it was undeserved. I think that he came in his second year overweight, and I don't think that he had any kind of a scheme or system. I think that he learned a lot from watching a systemless team, and getting Stefanski in, may very well turn that young man's career completely around. I want to point something else out, that the detractors continue for Baker Mayfield, and he keeps getting compared by some sources to Kirk Cousins, of which I see absolutely no scenario or similarities whatsoever. Baker Mayfield has a much stronger arm than Kirk Cousins does, and he's got better players surrounding him, and he's got more fire in his belly than Kirk Cousins does. And again, this is until you win the big ones, this is what you get. Lamar Jackson at some point would reach a point, I felt, where the surrounding pieces would go down, that he would have to force victory through passing the ball to his wide receivers. The fact that the Ravens have consistently been, a solid defensive team and seem to always lean that way under Harbaugh's coaching, and the fact that they wanted, J.K. Dobbins, and they wanted to continue the running game, they did not help themselves out very much at the wide receiver position, and now that's exactly where they need the help. But I want to point something out. I do not wish badly for Lamar Jackson, and I hope the national press doesn't bury him if he has an initial difficulty, because the offensive scheme that he's playing with and for is a run-first thing. And if they're bringing in 31-year-old running backs, or guys like Le'Veon Bell, who is on the practice squad as it sits right now, who didn't exactly burn up the charts, in his last go-round.
And their pass game is also predicated on the tight ends.
Mark Andrews. They re-signed Andrews for a bundle.
They always Andrews is always leading that team in receptions since he got there. And before that, it was another guy at tight end that Andrews replaced. I forget his name.
Right, and that's the first place that that Lamar Jackson looks, and if he does not succeed initially, if the running game doesn't get off the ground real well, and he's forced to throw the ball more, I mean, stop and think for a minute, and before you get on this bandwagon of negativity toward quarterbacks, that when Ben Roethlisberger's running game went away, when Bettis went away and got old, washed up, had left the game, and he had to throw more often, Ben Roethlisberger sucked the big donkey dick. Without that running game surrounding him, Ben Roethlisberger was a mistake waiting to happen. And people don't talk about this shit. Because
on the upside, Hines Ward was a fantastic fantasy pick every year. Because he caught a zillion passes.
He was going out throwing 50 times a game, but he was also throwing interceptions. And the bottom line is that they only care about the end result. There are no excuses, all right? There's no crying in baseball. So this is what we have.
Only when they lose in the playoffs, which was absolutely beautiful.
The way I look at it is, if the running game doesn't get them past these things, and if Lamar Jackson is throwing to adequate but not really great wide receivers, and they lose more football games than they were expected to, this signing long-term of Harbaugh as their coach is going to be a massive mistake, because everyone's going to point to him. That's the only good news for Lamar Jackson, is that Lamar Jackson is literally so talented physically that they're not going to, the fans aren't going to turn on him. Instead, they're going to turn on the coach. We're going to add Derek. Hi, Derek. How you doing today?
Hey, yeah, I'm doing good. Sorry, I was coming home from college, and then I went to get on, and my mic wasn't working, so I had to re-download and go through that process again. But I'm here.
Yeah, so, again, I'm not going to sit there and say negative things. I didn't say negative things about Baker Mayfield. I know a lot of people who watch this program who do not come on the air, but who write comments after the program, and people who visited the chat room have said lousy things about Baker Mayfield because it was the easy, expedient thing to do, but there's no reason for it. It's going to be a challenge, just like it was a challenge for the Browns. Not only do we have the Freddie Kitchens thing, last year was a huge challenge for the Browns. I mean, for a team that hadn't won in God knows how long, to lose literally every one of their secondary people to injury during the course of the season, to lose their single biggest play wide receiver that they were counting on early in the season for the whole season.
Well, and the Ronnie Harrison trade was days before they were supposed to play the Ravens.
That's right, and not only that, then there are a bunch of circumstances for the Browns last year. Jedrick Wills got hurt early on and missed a ton of games. So, you can say every team is going to face its share of adversity. The Browns were playing unknown offensive linemen that didn't even know one another by the end of the season. And there is no crying in baseball. The bottom line is you go out and you win, or you go out and lose. And if you lose, the talking heads, the idiots, are going to say what they're going to say. But it isn't just us. I just want people to realize, oh God, why does it always happen to us? Cut the loser act. It happens to everybody. Good teams, like the Browns last year, bounce back. And I want to see Lamar Jackson prove himself. I don't want to see him fail. I want to see him answer a question. And that's a question that I've asked. But the thing is, he better throw the football. Because if he thinks he's going to make up for the lack of all these running backs himself by running the ball more, you're going to see him carried off the field on a stretcher. That ain't good. I don't want him to get hurt. But the way things are going, they're going to crucify me. John Lennon. The way things are going for the Ravens right now, I don't know. I'd be holding my breath every time he ran out of the pocket to get downfield. It's kind of scary that way.
Well, and the guys they signed at running back have a history of injuries as well. So there's never that guarantee as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's something I want to play here that is just a source, and I want to share my screen here. This is, let's see if I can get this to do what I want it to do. I think I can. I hope I can. All right. And let's share this. And I'm going to go full screen with this and listen in.
And this can kind of merge organically.
Bring it to me.
The reason why they released me is because indirectly, I was going to be a distraction.
Without being the starter.
Without being a starter.
Yeah.
And this was
but
not
how?
Going to come.
Verbally or in the locker room?
Just my aura.
Okay.
Just my aura. And that's just, and I told you this off camera.
Did he cut a hole in his fucking hat?
Curse.
Yeah.
When you bring a Cam Newton to your facility, when you bring a Cam Newton to your franchise, people are interested by mere fact
they are intrigued.
Who is he?
Yeah.
Why does he wear his hair?
Yeah.
Why does he talk? Why does he act? Why does he perform? Why does all these questions?
Thank you. I couldn't stand that anymore.
Well, I still got it running. I got to get rid of it on my end. I feel seriously like it's something that is make it stop. God. Make it stop, please. All right, let me get this. Stop.
See,
this
Rick
audio.
is even asking, did he cut a hole in his hat, or did he buy it that way?
You were wondering what the problem was with Cam Newton. When you talk about yourself and use your own name, that's the problem with Cam Newton. Him and his Superman act, again, great football players will be great. They will find their way. And guys like Cam Newton, you can see how they rub people the wrong way. His fucking aura. Well, then wash your fucking armpits. Jesus Christ, his aura. To me, it's unbelievable. So at any rate, that I thought that was like,
it's amazing that he can walk upright with an ego that weighs that much.
yeah. I mean, and what has he ever done? What has he ever done? I mean,
he did get Carolina to the Super Bowl, but so did Jake Delhomme.
yeah, there you have it. There you have it. I mean, that's just, at any rate, we want to start
And
looking
didn't they both
into,
lose to the Patriots?
oh, I don't even remember what, honestly, Cam Newton was somebody who never impressed me to begin with. He had a lot of physical attributes, but his attitude always put me off. What we're looking at is AFC North. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be in front of my TV at 1:00 watching the Steelers playing Buffalo in Buffalo, and it's going to be an interesting thing. I want to see Najee Harris playing for the Steelers and see if he can bring anything. I am not that high on that back. We're going to see. Derek, what do you think of Najee Harris?
Well, I love him. I think as a player, obviously it's easy for us to put the, bias glasses on. And I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying me personally. I've always been a fan of him. I like what he can do. I think he's got a little bit of a Derrick Henry in him in a smaller, shiftier body. And I like him and I like all of his abilities. But my concern is not Najee Harris. My concern is that offensive line. What is he going to...
It could make him look bad, couldn't it?
Yeah, and especially in a first year. We saw J.K. Dobbins come out, and yes, he had a good year, but was it as great as it could have been this year? No. Rookies come out and they struggle. So I think as a player, he'll be great. Unfortunately for us, I think he'll be a long-time top back for the Steelers again, but I do think, especially early on, he'll be extremely limited because of the line and also because of the fact they're going to rely on him so much if Ben falls off. And I think that could also hurt him potentially long-term getting that many carries this early on.
Well, one of the things about Buffalo is that they had trouble stopping the run last year. However, when the Steelers lost to them last year, they only ran for 47 rushing yards, 2.8 yard per carry average. But on the overall, the Bills' defense was lacking in tackling skills, and a lot of people broke tackles on them. So it'll be interesting to see how that part of it plays out. And Josh Allen is another guy who
the Bills really manhandled the. Didn't they beat the Ravens? Weren't they the ones that beat the Ravens?
Look, you're asking somebody who has no rear view mirror.
I think you're right, because the Ravens played the Titans in the first playoff game. That was Lamar's first ever playoff win, and then I think they played the Bills. I think you're right.
And they absolutely throttled the running attack of the Ravens, much
Josh
like San
Allen,
Diego did, or whatever the hell they're called.
LA.
Josh Allen set a franchise record with 37 passing touchdowns and 4,544 passing yards. And he completed 70% of his passes. And honestly, I think that was an aberration year for Josh Allen. I'm not saying that Josh Allen's not a good quarterback, but I don't think he can replicate those numbers this year.
Well, and I got into it with Bills fans because they were saying that the guy that they got from Minnesota wasn't really doing anything to help fucking Josh Allen. And it's like, wait a minute. He had 127 receptions. The next guy on the list had like 81.
Well, Bills fans are very passionate, and I think Josh Allen's been a great addition for them and a great draft pick. I mean, there ain't no question about that. There's nothing historically that would show he's able to complete 70% of his passes in a season, except for last year. I would be very surprised. I would be the most surprised man on the planet if he continues to complete 70% of his passes with a low interception rate and throws 37 touchdown passes. I would be shocked if that happened again.
And Moo, I was looking at his stats the other day, because me and my friends were talking about the whole contract thing with Baker. And Josh Allen, if you look at his first what would it be, 2-3 years before this past year, he was not great in completion percentage. The one time it was like 59, and then it was like 61 or 62.
That's right.
And then it took the big jump. So it's not like it's been a consistent thing here. And that's not to say he won't get close to his numbers, but it's very unrealistic to expect that out of him again.
If he completes 65% of his passes with that arm he has, it's still going to win the Bills a hell of a lot of football games. I'm not stuck on the number, but the other thing is the interception ratio rate, with him throwing as many downfield throws as he did last year. I don't know if that's attainable again. And the thing is, if the Bills' defense in any way, shape, or form is suspect, if the quarterback starts turning the ball over more than he did last year, then it stands to reason that the Bills might not be as successful record-wise as they were. All of these picks now are coming from national sources. The FPI prediction says that there's 67.8% chance Buffalo wins by an average of 6.7 points. And a lot of people are picking this game close. I don't see it that way, to be very honest with you. If the Bills squeak one out 24-21, it's a moral victory for the Steelers. And it tells me something about the Bills that maybe they're more fallible than a lot of people think they are. I think they should really beat up on the Steelers, really. I mean,
haven't the Bills kind of beefed up their defense this year?
Yeah.
Or this offseason?
Yeah.
So
they drafted two pass rushers in the first
I don't
two
think
picks.
that the Steelers are going to score more than 19 points on them. As bad as that offensive line is, I just don't see that.
And the next game, another 1:00 game, the Vikings at the Bengals. The Bengals are at home against a team that is, Tony the Calf would tell you, is rather inept. Is that we'll bring Tony in. Tony, are you there? Tony, can you hear me? You there? Okay. Yeah, we're talking now Vikings at Bengals. We're going to be in front of that TV at 1:00 watching Fox. And what do you think? What do you think is going to happen in this game, Tony?
Tony is gone.
Tony can't get his connection together. That's really too bad.
You can't insert flap A into slot B.
I'll tell you one thing. If I were Joe Burrow and coming off of the injury, I'd like to be playing the Vikings at home too. I mean, that's the question is, can the Vikings stop Dalvin Cook? Or excuse me, can the Bengals stop Dalvin Cook and the running game that could really change the whole complexion of things? That's a good question. The Vikings.
To me, this is really a coin flip game because both teams have an exceptional running back who, if healthy, can really help them win a lot of games. But can they tackle on the defensive end, and can they get any turnovers? That's the key.
Well, the Vikings allowed 40 points per game in their last 3 games last year. The Vikings defense just quit. But they haven't allowed 30 plus points in 4 consecutive games since 2012. But this means nothing. I don't know what to expect from the Vikings. I was hoping Tony might be able to help us, but he can't get on the air today. He's having connection problems. But this is, we're seeing a lot of flip-flop from the picks on this. The FPI says Minnesota, 52.7% of the people say the Vikings are going to win, but only by an average of 1.1 points, which agrees with you, Brian, that it's a coin flip. This game can go either way. We'll see.
I would give a slight edge to the Bengals at home.
And I would too. And I think that it'll be a confidence builder for Joe Burrow coming off that injury. I think that is really significant.
I guess I'll be the one to contradict here. I think the Vikings win by at least 10 points. I just don't think the Bengals early on are going to be great. I think Dalvin Cook is going to have himself a great game, and I think the Vikings, the passing game will be a little bit better early on than we'll see in the rest of the season, because I just don't buy. And the Bengals have so many new additions. Like, it's not like a team that's been put together for a while, and I just don't buy Jamar Chase immediately, and I don't buy Joe Burrow coming back immediately because, I haven't seen it yet. And in camp, they were saying
No, Chase
flustered.
isn't going to be worth anything to them, but they have other guys that are going to be worth something.
Well,
and
I mean, I
have
never want
that
to say
connection
that
with Burrow already.
I don't want to say that because you drop passes in the preseason that like I'm gonna give up on their first round pick. However, if something goes down in the first week of the season and he's dropping passes on in the regular season, it becomes a mental thing, and we've seen this with receivers before. So if there is a flaw in the way that he is catching the ball, it will continue, and I hope for for Joe Burrow's sense of safety that doesn't happen. Your bonus pick, I'm picking the Bengals to win. The bonus pick is Jaguars at Texans. How's that? You're Trevor Lawrence. You're on the road for your first game, but it's against a semi-pro football team.
The Cleveland Browns South.
Yeah, it's a semi-pro
The junior
team.
varsity Cleveland Browns.
I mean, the Texans are going to be without Bradley Roby. He's finishing out a 6-game suspension.
He was traded.
Yeah, they did get rid of him, didn't they?
Yeah, to the Saints.
Yeah, and so and then there are injury concerns with Lonnie Johnson, their safety, a thigh injury, and he didn't practice on Wednesday. They don't know whether he's going to be able to play. And needless to say, Tyrod Taylor, who can't. It would be one thing if you could run up points against the Jaguars and make the young rookie quarterback have to play from behind. But Tyrod Taylor can't put points on the board. And, it's unbelievable to think that we could be picking the Jaguars at the Texans. But I'm still not sure about this game, honestly.
The Jags 27-3.
Well, that'll make Jaguars fans very, very happy. Very, very happy.
It'll make Urban Meyer relatively happy.
This seems like the
for
perfect
1 week.
For 1 week, 10 minutes.
This seems like that news headline from week 1. Trevor Lawrence is already looking like a multi-year pro, but you're playing a terrible, terrible team who just keeps losing people and has not added anybody, and then you trade your corner. So, I think Trevor Lawrence will have a good game. I think the Jags win big, but it's not going to be a long-term thing. It's just because of who you're playing.
Well, Trevor Lawrence played a good game in his last preseason game, but so did Deshaun Kaiser. I don't believe it until it's go time and until speed is full speed and everything counts, and that's that. Then of course the Ravens at the Raiders. That's the Monday night game, 8:15 p.m. on ESPN. We'll all be watching that as well. They keep winning early on in the season. The thing about the Ravens is that they get up on everybody early, and they don't have the problems of starting out with a 2-2 record like we did last year. They jump right on people right away. And the Raiders are a team, I don't know that they have the speed of players that will be able to stay with Lamar Jackson. I do believe that at some time this season, Lamar Jackson's going to get hurt. And I've had this feeling since last year, and seeing what's happening around him.
I agree with you.
But the Raiders have this thing about them that they just come out of nowhere for one game and they absolutely stun everybody. When they beat Kansas City on the road, that was really like saying something. That was their Super Bowl. And so this could be the same kind of a thing. Gruden will get them so hyped up to play this game, and then they'll be flat for the next 2 or 3.
You said it's in LA, correct? Or in Vegas, rather?
Yeah, the game is in Vegas, right? So
yeah, I would probably pick the Raiders at home.
And the FBI prediction is that Baltimore would win the game 57% of the time by an average of 2.6 points. So this really, they're saying that Baltimore is the favorite in this game. I believe they are as well, and I think the Ravens will win. I don't have a whole lot of belief in Gruden. I really don't. There's no consistency.
Yeah,
there.
but there's too many new pieces on the Ravens offensive line and on their and at the running back position. So that's going to give them a slight edge, even though they have the miracle worker at quarterback.
I could see the Ravens playing a little sloppy, but I think they win. I think that connection to Mark Andrews is just that's what the whole game will be. It'll be Lamar running and Mark Andrews.
Yeah. And then
and Snell catching a floating kite out of the out of the sky from Lamar Jackson.
We are going in to the den of iniquity in Kansas City. They're saying game time temperature will be 93 degrees. So rotational players are going to be very important. And we'll see how Myles Garrett has recovered from his COVID, because he's always seemingly out of breath anyway. But 93 degrees to start the game. It's going to be a hot day. I mean, it's should cool off a little as gets a little later, but it's going to be difficult. The bottom line is we played this team last year, and the game was close, but Kansas City's first 4 drives in that game, and I rewatched the game, all ended in points, 2 touchdowns and a pair of field goals. Meanwhile, we got off to a very, very slow start. A field goal, a punt, and fumble in their first 3 possessions. And if you remember, the Rashard Higgins fumble was a helmet-to-helmet no call in the end zone. I don't know if you remember that, a little thing that people tend to forget. But again, you can't mess up opportunities to put points on the board against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. The Cleveland Browns, what can I tell you that you don't already know? We've made a major leap in the level of talent that we have on the defensive side of the ball, but they haven't played together yet. The Chiefs, on the other hand, do have some questions on their front line. The other thing that was interesting is I noted that media types were really writing off the fact that the Chiefs got manhandled in the Super Bowl and only managed 9 points against Tampa. And they didn't blame Patrick Mahomes, but they... The fact of the matter is that he got his bell rung really good, and it was a legal hit by Mack Wilson that knocked him out of the game, that for a moment made it look like the Browns might actually beat the Chiefs. But the bottom line there is that he's fragile like every quarterback's fragile. And one solid hit can change the course of a season. And if you lay down and you let this team get ahead of you early...
Just like Topaz there.
Yeah, there's not enough, literally not enough time on the clock to catch up and score that many points. You've got to come out with all guns blazing. And that's a challenge. Am I concerned about this game? I'm really not, because my feeling is that they should be favored to win. It's in their stadium, and Kansas City is considered the creme de la creme of the AFC, along with the Bills being number 2 and the Ravens being number 3. Again, nobody thinks that Baker Mayfield can be mentioned in the same breath as Mahomes. So, what the Browns have going for them is a running game. And if you read the national, pundits, it's like the Browns have to control the football and they have to use that running game. Well, I will tell you this. I'm more interested in the physicality of the Cleveland Browns on a 93-degree day to wear out the defense of Kansas City. But you're not going to, you cannot win a 20-17 game, because what will happen is Mahomes will just make big plays and their offense will make big plays. And if you're just constantly trying to get 16 play drives and they're just scoring in 6 or 7 plays, which is what Kansas City does, you're playing from behind. You're never going to be able to beat them that way. So there has to be a true balance here, and the physicality of the game to wear down the defensive line of Kansas City will become important. But the first important thing that the Cleveland Browns have to do is, come halftime, that game has to be extremely, extremely close, or the Browns slightly ahead. Because, it's the old line about in heavyweight boxing, you kill the body and the head dies. The punishment from accumulated damage to the body ends up in a lot of knockouts in boxing, conditioning. And first game of the year, I would bet my money from an organizational perspective more on Stefanski having his players ready that way than Andy Reid. I'm not demeaning Andy Reid as a coach by any stretch of the imagination, but you got to keep the game real close in that first half and tire them out. You got to do what you can to wear them down. Because we outplayed them in the second half of the game. It was just unfortunate that we could not summon the ability to get them off the field with a backup quarterback on the field. And that was the problem with the Browns all last year. We couldn't get off the field on third down. We'll see how it starts this year.
Yeah, and Moo, they're starting 3 rookies on the right side of the offensive line. And yeah, I like Creed Humphrey. I always have. I think he's going to be a fine player. But the Browns have got to test that early on, because you can adjust later in the game. But if they don't come out and they don't try to, switch things up, my thing is, I think they need to try to do some unique blitzes, switch guys around, maybe move Clowney inside a little bit. You got to test them out early, because if you wait around, then you're not going to have a clear idea of what that line is first. And then offensively, I think the Browns, they need to rotate Chubb and Hunt a lot. I agree with that, especially with the heat. I didn't know about that. But also the thing that worked in the last game against the Chiefs, the screen game. David Njoku had one screen to the left that went like 35 yards, and I don't know if the Browns ran another one. So they got to get creative, but they need to incorporate a lot of Chubb and Hunt, and as well as the screen game, to try to gain those 10, 15 yards that you just don't get against the Chiefs. They got to take advantage of that.
It's funny,
or to get Chubb out up kind of in space, and then let him just freight train right through their defense, just like he did against the Steelers.
Cleveland.com is running their poll. What do you think about Week 1? Who's going to win? And the Browns by 3 points or less, 30%, and 7 to 10 points, Browns win 28%. In other words, 58% of the people believe that the Browns are going to win. Yet at the same time, if you add up, let me see, 34, 38, about 38% of the people are saying that the Chiefs will win, and these are Cleveland fans who are talking. It's kind of hard to predict Kansas City to lose their home opener. Andy Reid has not lost a home opener, if I'm correct, since 2013. He just doesn't lose, the season openers. And the Browns, of course, have about the worst record in the history of the NFL, since their return in season openers. So it's the two teams have a lot of quiet respect for one another. The fact is, nobody's offering the other any locker room fodder. The Browns are saying nice things about the Chiefs and vice versa. So we don't have any loud mouths who are shooting their mouths off, thank God.
Well, and there's a lot of respect within both locker rooms because of the Travis Kelce thing. And that was one of the things in the offseason. You saw Kelce participating, and I believe a couple other Chiefs, in the celebrity softball game by Landry. So there's a little bit of, I don't know if you want to call it friendship there, but there is that respect. So I think both teams know and respect who each other is. So it's not like the juju thing. It's completely different here.
Right. And there's nothing to just
Well, and that was also shown during the joint practice with the Giants. They had they had all their captains and all the coaches doing a little meet and greet, and that kind of set the tone. And there really were no it wasn't like the Indianapolis Colts debacle where there were fights everywhere and all this other shit going on. It was everybody was down to business.
Well, and a great coach, you can tell a great coach by how the team represents them. In every player media interview that there's been, basically since Stefanski has arrived, I mean, Baker's completely different. He represents, Stefanski. Obviously, Chubb's always the same. But even some of these guys who are a little bit more chippy sometimes, like your Landrys or whatever, it seems like it's almost like a carbon copy print of Stefanski's messaging. Starts from the top, and it just has trickled down all the way through the organization. And Andrew Berry as well. I don't want to forget him because I think he deserves a whole lot of credit of the culture change here.
Well, and the other thing is my image of the Cleveland Browns are a bunch of worker bees. Stefanski is not a coach who is going to just drop down and kiss the feet of his athletes. He's a person who demands accountability, and he doesn't care who you are. Every play you give your best, and if you don't, you won't be playing. And he's turned a lot of what we would have thought were borderline players, people like Rashard Higgins, and people like, when he was with the Browns, Kaderil Hodge, into better football players because they played every down hard. And we hadn't seen that in Cleveland for God knows how long. And the way the Browns wear people out is that way. They are an executing machine. They're like the mind of the coach who runs them. And if there's anything to be said about Stefanski, is that he is a Johnny One Note in that regard. He is a person who is not a fiery, emotional kind of a guy. He is a demanding head coach, but he is reasonable. And he doesn't, impose, ridiculous restrictions on players, nor does he badmouth players. He doesn't say things to the press that vilifies players. His actions speak louder than his words. If he's upset with somebody, he don't play them. If somebody makes mistakes, they're not in the game. I mean, it's all about winning. And we haven't seen this in the past. And he's not going to put up with shit if OBJ starts giving it to him.
Yeah, and that's one of the points I was just thinking about where you were saying that. What have you heard from OBJ this offseason? You haven't heard this is my greatest season yet. You've heard nothing but work. And he's posted these videos of him working out. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the media stuff. The stuff you were hearing the prior year of this is my year. This is 2020. I'm going to have 20 or 200, whatever he said, 200 yards or whatever, 20 touchdowns this year. You're not hearing any of that. It's because they bought in. And it's very, very hard to get a team with this many egos and personalities to buy in like he's had. So, man, if that's not a representation of Kevin Stefanski and this culture change, I don't know what is.
Well, right now, OBJ is questionable. He's listed as questionable. And reporters were frantically asking if he'd had a setback from his rehab. And
so is McLaughlin.
And Stefanski said, no. What about Chase?
McLaughlin's also questionable with a hamstring injury.
The kicker?
Yes.
Oh, I
Don't
didn't
like
hear
that.
about that.
Yeah, that was out today. So
Yeah,
about an hour ago.
And if you want to find out how you lose football games with a lousy kicker, look what happened to the Cowboys. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that was just, Zerline. I couldn't believe that. The first ball he kicked was sideways, I swear to God. So you can't afford to miss 2 field goals in a game and it ends up being a 2-point differential. You see, a kicker makes a huge difference. And we have another guy who's on the practice squad who may be kicking in week 1. You just don't know. But the OBJ situation, I don't know what it's all about, whether this is just the gamesmanship of is he going to be out there or is he not going to be out there? Is he going to be window dressing so that he may go out for a few plays and be a decoy? I don't know what the situation is here. I have no inside information, but he is listed as questionable.
Well, and on the questionable front, Tyrann Mathieu still has not been cleared, and he has not practiced. So with 2 days left, 2 days left, I don't know if he's going to play. And that's
I don't
a big,
know that
big
either.
factor.
And again, Andy Reid's an old veteran, and the fact of the matter is he's familiar with the defense that he's playing, and he could play without practice. It's a matter of his health. And
but isn't the rule you have to be no symptoms and 2 negative tests before you can come back?
Negatives.
And he's still tested positive. The last I heard, which I thought I read that earlier today. I could be wrong. Maybe that was yesterday, but big factor there.
Yeah, he's coming down to the wire with his situation. Now, OBJ, I can't say with any certainty, but we won a lot of games without OBJ. And the fact of the matter is that Stefanski doesn't look at him any differently than he looks at any other football player. This is a guy who we want to have on the field, but we're not going to sit there and cry if he's not. We're not going to let it diminish our enthusiasm. Somebody else will get up and will take his place.
And also, good news as far as the whole sickness front for the Browns. Jadeveon Clowney did return to practice, and he's supposedly good to go.
Yeah, and again, with whatever sickness he had, assuming that it was something that, the number of snaps that he's going to get, that will become an issue in 93-degree weather. Sometimes, and in that he didn't have COVID, but again, if he had a different kind of flu, or if he had something that was a kind of a gastrointestinal thing where he was dehydrated, again, a lot can happen on a 93-degree day. A lot can happen.
I also think, with the whole COVID concerns, regardless of him testing negative as he has, I think them keeping him away might have been more precautionary versus him actually not being able. I could be wrong, but that would be my guess. They just, they don't, right before week 1, you don't want to bring in that bug and take a chance.
Yeah. I mean, and, it's funny how names just show up on these injury reports in the, Well,
that's why, when she, Mary Kay Cabbage for Brains, put out this unofficial depth chart way back on fucking Tuesday. What is that?
Hold on.
There you go. It stopped.
Okay.
No, that's a fucking goddamn neighbor of mine mowing his lawn right when I'm on the air. This is the second fucking time.
Uh-oh.
That was a goddamn lawnmower. That's how close the houses are here.
Get you some sprinklers and turn it on when he...
No, I think what I'm going to do is, he's so close, I'm going to take my shorts off and have him blow me while he goes by. Jesus Christ, listen to that. Can you believe this?
It sounds, on the air, it sounds like a plane's coming by.
Yeah, it's like fucking living next to an airport.
I'm surprised Mr. Topaz there isn't jumping up and looking around.
Yeah, so, here is the report. He's questionable with a hamstring. I don't know, the right hamstring too,
Yeah, it's on the kicking leg.
Yeah.
Oh. Right.
So he probably was practicing long distance field goals because he doinked that one off the crossbar. That was 56 yards, something like that.
Yep.
And out of all games,
So-
it has to be this game or kicker gets hurt.
And then Chris Nager is the practice squad guy, and I can't really. He was cut by the Jets. So I don't think that's a good.
Randy
sign.
Marsh's favorite player. For all those that watch South Park.
Now, other players listed as questionable: OBJ, Jadeveon Clowney, and Grant Delpit, and Ronnie Harrison, and J.C. Treader. J.C. Treader will be out there.
Yeah.
I think that unless there's something horribly wrong, he'll be out there.
Yeah,
They
they'll
didn't have
to
Greedy
amputate.
listed?
They don't have Greedy listed, no, but Delpit is listed still with the hamstring. So
He might
what
get
I'm
limited.
hoping is that we can field this and start getting the this dime defense on the field that would allow Greedy and Delpit, all these people, to be on the field at the same time. If you're going to stop Mahomes, you know.
Well,
if they're not-
big ask out of Greg Newsome in your first game to be the starting corner against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns are counting on the fact that their nickel and dime packages will be so improved this year just because of the athleticism of the people who are on the field. The speed is greater. The closing ability to tackle and to seek out the ball is so much greater. But
JFK is going to have an upfront seat to Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Yeah, it's.
Do you have a Brian? I know you were talking about the depth chart there. Do you happen to have a list of who they have our starting linebackers as?
I can pull that one up.
Because last I heard was
reading the depth, the famed depth chart that they put up.
Well, that one was the unofficial one.
Yeah.
So I figured I wrote back to Mary Kay Cabbage for Brains and said, I'm going to wait till Friday for the official one and then worry about it.
because the last I heard was Mac Wilson, Walker Jr., and then JOK were our starters heading into the game. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's only two. First of all, we don't play a 3 linebacker scheme. So off the bat,
that was confusing to me too.
Yeah, but JOK is not on the depth chart as one of the 2 starters. He's behind the 2
Mac
that you
Wilson.
mentioned, Mac Wilson and Anthony Walker.
Well, I mean,
No, he's listed as a backup to Mac Wilson.
Yeah.
They actually have all 3 linebacker positions listed. Mac Wilson, Anthony Walker, and Sione Takitaki.
Well, and if Delpit is on a limited snap count, which I'm expecting him to be, I expect him to play, but he probably won't be, full go. They're probably going to use JOK in more of a box safety, will linebacker style of role anyway. So there could be that as well.
All right, Brian, it's your time to pick the outcome of the Browns and the Chiefs. What do you think?
I want to go with the Browns, 30-28.
And Derek?
My head thinks the Chiefs are going to win in a close one, but it's the first game of the year. I have to pick the Browns. I'm going to say the Browns win 34-27 or 28. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I have the Browns losing 34-27, and and it isn't a wrap against the organization. You're playing a team that is psyched up. It's going to be a stadium full of crazy COVID passing people from Kansas and Missouri, and this is going to be a wild scene. And the Browns are going to be facing this as a unit for the first time. Their composure will be tested. And especially starting out the game, it's going to be loud as hell, and they're going to be pumped up to the max, and you can't afford to fall behind this team. That we all know. My feeling is that the defense while it may be better, it will eventually round into being definitely better than what we had last year. How long does it take? And when your first test is an acid test on the road against the best team in the AFC, you have, and really, to be honest with you, when Mahomes is on, which is most of the time, it's indefensible.
I really hope we receive to kick off the game, because that way we can we won't be able to control the hype. But, if the Browns come out and they get the ball to start, and they hit, get a couple good runs in there, hit a first down, maybe slow it down a little bit to kick off the game, and obviously hopefully score, I think that would go a long way. Now, obviously that's 50-50 chance, and you're going to have to play regardless, but we'll see.
Right.
Yeah, Browns are on the road, and
regulars
for those listening.
And some of our regulars here, these are the picks that I'm showing on the screen right now. Hey, Joe Shipley, I'm sorry about your Ravens. My goodness, I don't wish any of this. I'm all positive. I'm all with this guy, man. This is the white marshmallow of hope, and I'm hoping that the Browns can come out of this game healthy. I mean, more than anything else,
he tore his ACL typing that score.
yeah. For the Browns, you can start the season 0-1. You can easily come back. It's very likely that the Steelers are going to lose their opener. I think the Ravens and the Bengals have a better chance of winning in week 1. But again, there's a difference between playing a team like Kansas City in Kansas City in the first game of the season. It's going to be,
I thought I read that Frank Clark was out. Do you know anything about that?
I had heard that he was questionable, and I don't know whether he is going to play or not. But
here, I'll see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah.
And Joe, it's better to tear your ACL than your rectum.
And hey, Ron, how you doing? Yeah, from your, from your lips to reality, let's hope that the Browns can get that done. But I mean, I think all of us believe it's going to be a competitive football game. And the real question is, who's going to knuckle down and make big plays? The Browns have to get some turnovers. They cannot allow Mahomes to just have open targets. And watching yesterday's game, it was amazing how open the Patriots receivers were. And then when you looked at it, I mean, the percentage of completions, the one interception was Fournette's fault. The other was a desperation heave. But Prescott was completing a very high percentage of his throws. But, I mean, Brady was just stepping up and just rifling the ball wherever he wanted to rifle it to. I mean, Go ahead.
I have the update here. The latest from arrowheadpride.com is Frank Clark will be listed as questionable, and if he does play, he will be on a limited snap count. So he's still very much dealing with his injury. Yeah.
And again, I don't get too excited about game 1, especially I think this is a real tough draw. To
me, the only two weeks you're really going to have the best chance to beat the Chiefs is either week 1 or week 17 or 19 or whatever the fuck we're up to now. Game 17.
Yeah, and I think that you're looking at it from a different perspective, and it may be more valid than the way I'm looking at it. I mean, what can happen in an opening game? I mean, look what happened when we played Pittsburgh last year the second time. I mean, it was like, Pittsburgh was just not ready for the onslaught. You just don't know how some of these games are going to turn out. It's just the home team has such adrenaline running. The Browns really need to keep their head above water early in this game. It's just,
and I'm going to say it one more time here. Last thoughts on this game. Again, test the right side early. You have to figure out what they are early, and that'll dictate how the game goes.
Yeah. Well, everybody, it's after 7, and I got to get the hell out of here. But, it's going to be an interesting game. I had a guy who was saying to me, they're not showing the game in Florida, and that's absolutely true. If you're on a cable service and you're not, hooked up with DirecTV and all that, they're not showing the Browns and Chiefs here in Florida, and that's because of the Dolphins game. And that is one. Is that something or what?
Are you going to be able to watch it at least?
Oh yeah, because I'm a Sunday ticket, and yeah, and not a problem. But what I do want to tell people is, if you're caught in this situation,
as long as this DSL works and there's not a cloud in the sky, you can watch.
No, I mean, this person wrote to me. They're from Venice, Florida, which is just south of where I'm at. And he didn't ask me what to do, but there are two things that I know of that you can do. If you are in Florida and you're listening to this program and you really want to see the Browns game, there are two sources you can go to. The first one is Fubo, FUBO.TV, and that's streaming television. You can, there's no obligation. You can get a free trial, get your free trial, and watch the game that way. Or Paramount Plus is another way of watching CBS National. And, I don't know if these online sites take into account where you're at. But the fact of the matter is, we're in that Miami kind of perimeter,
There's also some online streams. I won't name it, but if you're desperate, just contact me somehow and I can tell you, Can't promise you that it's exactly the cleanest legal way, but there are free streams you can find. It's just a little bit difficult. So if you're in a really, really, really tough spot, feel free to message me. I'll respond.
The Reddit streams are on NFL Bites for people who just don't give a shit like me. So.
And Tony, thanks for that, because geotagged is that's correct. And if that's the case, then you're screwed, gluten tattooed. You're going to have to go to where Brian goes, which is where I think a lot of people go and don't talk much about
it. There are ways. You're going to have to do a little bit of digging ahead of time. Well ahead of time, I would suggest.
All right. Well, everybody, enjoy the game on Sunday. I know I'm going to. And it's a 4:25 start. We'll be doing halftime and post-game shows. And let's just hope for the best for our team. And that, I'm hoping we play well, but I'm hoping that we get some health.
I think the Browns can steal this. I believe in the Browns, and I can steal this one and get off to the right foot for a change.
Well, let's see. Let's hope it happens. Good luck to everybody and all your teams, no matter who you're cheering for. And I'll see you again on Sunday at halftime. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.